Wake up, everybody. It's time for the History You Forgot podcast, the podcast where these three former history teachers with over 90 years of teaching experience catch you up on the stuff that you slept through in your history classes. Today, we're talking the Blitz, the Battle of Britain, and it's coming at you next. I'm Jason Schmoida.
And I'm Jason Jones.
And I'm Jeff Breedlove, out of order. I didn't
Order smarter.
And we're not all retired teachers yet.
No.
We thought we were going to.
Did I say retired?
You said former. And I
did I really?
You did, but that's okay.
That's funny. That's me wishful thinking. I don't think I realized I even said it.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Well,
but I believe you.
Well, good.
Whatever.
Good. Somebody has to.
Yeah, there you go. From your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah. It's all right. It's all right. So we're narrowing our focus a little bit today, guys, talking about the Battle of Britain. Kind of a cool thing to get going on. We did find a drink that is specific to it.
Mr. Jones,
well, it's specific to Britain in the 40s.
True.
What was the other one we were dreading? The Juggernaut, or what was it? MacArthur or Patton's?
Wasn't there a...
it was like a tank, named after a tank or something.
Oh, man. There was something...
I thought it was like...
What was the Angry Bastard?
Yeah.
One of those. It was,
and there was also one like...
But there was
like
another
a tank
one.
or something in North Africa. It's those Brits.
Yeah.
It's the Brits that do
That's
it.
right.
Because they have like gin and... rum or something and vodka.
Yeah, it was a combination that was evil.
It's the gin.
Yeah, well, it's the gin. So here it is. It's the Pegu Club cocktail, and it's named after the Pegu Club, which is a Burmese or Myanmar today British club. British officers club. And so it was a favorite amongst the Brits in the 40s during World War II. And as we made it, we realized how... I think tart's the word we're going to have to use as we go through this, but let's try it. Let's try. You already did some lime. Let me get a little bit more lime in mine, and
let's toast.
See how
the show.
To the show.
And Foxhole Wine and Spirits. Right?
Yeah, Foxhole Wine and Spirits.
I wanted to taste it before I ran down the ingredients because I want people to understand, if they're watching the looks on our faces. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, tart.
Yeah.
So it is 2 ounces of dry gin, and Foxhill Wine and Spirits was nice enough to give us some Builder's gin, which is local gin as well. So it's also then 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lime juice, a half ounce of triple sec, or you could use any orange related liqueur, Angostura bitters, orange bitters, and we put a lime in it to garnish. And man, it is...
And to kill the taste.
It is tart.
It is tart.
It is tart. But you know what? If it's what the British officers were drinking, we should be drinking it.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's kind of understanding why they were bombed for 8 months.
right. You know, we're growing as individuals. We're trying new things.
I am, but I'm not.
I can do gin. I like gin. I just don't want to. I don't like to add too much to it.
Oh,
you know,
I could drink gin if there's like no gin flavor.
Oh, it's good gin though. This is good gin.
Oh no, I'm sure it is. I mean, like it's just there's just something how there's like tastes that.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a gin guy.
I'm not a gin guy.
Yeah, me
tastes like pine salt.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
in certain alley can for sure.
Yeah, that's just how my brain always translates it. I mean, I will drink it. Don't get me wrong, but
weren't a lot of those 40s and 50s era cocktails either really sweet or really tart? Or I think that was a real
sweet. I know for sure.
Right.
One lot of them were gin because you could you don't have to have like the potatoes and all that kind of stuff to make it within the bread. I mean, I think I read talking about this that the one thing that they didn't ration or get rid of during the Blitz was like beer and stuff. I think they didn't want people to have to give up there was plenty of alcohol,
right?
Even if there wasn't anything else.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of wild. So, Mr. Jones, you are the one who picked this topic. You kind of have a little, I would say you're jonesing for it.
Yeah. No,
I know, right?
World War II, World War II is something that I really like to teach, and I really like to read about still, and learn about myself. And of course, when you're talking about World War II, there's lots of things that go into the war and how we get to a point where Britain is the only country still standing in Europe, and the Nazis just all out blitz of them to try and get them to surrender. So if you look at historically what's going on, remember Hitler takes over in Germany in the mid 30s, and in terms of the Nazi Party, early 30s, and then once he becomes chancellor, and remember he became chancellor legally, right? I guess is what I'm trying to say. He didn't overthrow a government to get there, but anyway. He starts just kind of throwing the Treaty of Versailles out. The Treaty of Versailles was a World War I treaty. Hitler fought for Germany. He was Austrian, but he fought for Germany, and Germany had lost about 13% of their total land mass of their country. Germany had lost all of their colonies. Germany had 100,000 person or man army. They couldn't have an air force. There's all sorts of things that the treaty did, and so Hitler, as he gained power, kept telling the German people, we're going to bring Germany back to its strength, back to its core values of strength and being one of the major powers on the continent. So he starts doing little things like reoccupying the Rhineland. The Rhineland is between Germany and France. It's an area where it was supposed to be a demilitarized zone, and he put troops there. Nobody did anything. Nobody really said anything. Hitler then is going to have the Anschluss of Austria, and he's going to basically take Austria, his home country, right? And it's kind of like annexing it without a vote. Yeah. Did I say it wrong? Yeah, probably said it wrong. But then he's going to say, I want the Sudetenland, right? Which is a part of Czechoslovakia. And all this time, European leaders, because nobody else wants another war, is saying, fine, Adolf, take the Sudetenland, but don't take anything else. Right?
Kind of had an okay boomer ring.
Right.
Fine, Adolf.
but so they called it the policy of appeasement, right? And there's a famous Munich conference where the then British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain comes out and says, "We have peace in our time. Herr Hitler is someone we can work with." And
of all of all the quotes that don't age well, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, and then just one other thing that really became important, a part of this is the whole time Hitler was rising to power, he was saying things like how bad he hated communism and how he didn't like Stalin and how the Soviet Union was not good, and so basically everybody believed he was a hater of communism. And then he signs the Nazi-Soviet non-aggression pact. And so all of a sudden, there's not going to be a two-front war at this point, right? Because they are now friends, supposedly. And Hitler attacks.
But nobody knows about it.
Right. Hitler then attacks Poland after he's taken all of Czechoslovakia. And you've got Russia then invades Poland as well. And Britain and France said if Poland, who hadn't been its own country, Jeff, remind me, 1775, I think was the last time it was its own sovereign nation. When Britain and France said, we'll protect you. And actually the Poles did a pretty good job fighting, considering. But that's kind of what gets us to the Battle of Britain, because now we've got the Soviets and Germans with the non-aggression pact. All the rest of Europe has fallen, and Britain is the only thing left standing.
France moves pretty quickly.
They invade.
France falls pretty quickly.
Very quickly.
I think that's where you could talk about the Blitzkrieg, right? The whole new sort of German style of warfare that kind of keeps everybody off guard. I think we're coming off a World War I. It's only 20 years ago, right? So people are still expecting French warfare.
Yep.
Right. People are still thinking it's going to be the French had the Maginot Line, like the French have dug in and expected, and it's 20 years the technology has changed, right? So
and the Poland ran out of cavalry. tanks.
Right. I mean, they literally were. I mean, the Germans. You probably have a better idea of this, but this tanks. What it was. It first you soften up with airplanes.
Right.
Right. You just blast for somebody, then you run in the tanks, then the troops.
Right.
And it's like
overwhelming.
Right. And Blitzkrieg, what's lightning war?
Lightning war.
So I think that the fact that Poland, I mean, I don't think it lasted very long, a couple of days, I think, before they fell. But still, considering they run themselves. But yeah, Scandinavia is next.
Yeah.
Right. He kind of goes north. Then he comes down. France is the last on the continent. And by May of 1940, it's already fallen. So that was September 1st of 39. Plus, you had that period in there before May called the Phony War.
Right.
Right. Where everybody knows a state of war exists from like December, of 39. Everyone's declared war, but nobody does anything. Everybody's kind of waiting to see like the next move, and then trying to figure out what the plan is going to be. Right. So they literally call it the Phony War because everybody's just waiting.
Right.
It's just,
Troops are in place.
Everybody's just waiting sort of for the first or the next ship to drop. And then I think that, when he invades France, and it's, again, how many times is this going to have to happen right before France figures out, they come through the forest.
Right. They come through Belgium.
They come through Belgium. It's I think a matter of weeks. It's short. By May, it's done.
Right.
And then, which is why when you said Britain's the only one left, it's the only, Spain is neutral.
Neutral. Switzerland's neutral.
Switzerland's neutral.
Italy's Germany's ally.
Right.
Did I see that's actually, how the battle got its name, right? Because didn't Churchill say, we see that the Battle of France has ended and we expect the Battle of Britain to be next?
Yeah.
Something to that
I think it's
effect?
pretty obvious because they'd also been practicing this blitzkrieg. People knew, as early as 37 or something in the Spanish Civil War.
Right.
If you there's that famous Picasso painting called Guernica, right, which is basically a German-Italian bombing of a Spanish market.
Yeah.
That Picasso paints. But so everyone is kind of aware, but no one, I think, really understands the firepower that Germany has.
And Spain isn't in the war, but Hitler and Mussolini helped Francisco Franco gain power because of the Spanish Civil War and the practicing the Blitzkrieg. So they would tend to lean Axis powers. And when the war ends, a lot of people believe a lot of Nazis escaped to Spain and avoided the trials, the Nuremberg trials.
So I think, so I think your point is well taken. Everybody knows when France falls, it's only a matter of time. And this is what Jones, and the timing, it's not much longer though, until the Soviets are fully aware that this pact isn't going to last.
Right.
But it's not yet, right? They still they don't know it yet.
I don't think yet. Yeah.
I think it's the fall after the Blitz. I think that's when the Blitz doesn't go well.
Right.
Well, it's 41.
Yeah.
At some point midway or so through 41 when Hitler invades the Soviets.
Yeah. So
he just went,
Yeah. So and the way I teach it anyway is Hitler kind of gets bored. He's been convinced by Goering, who's the leader of the Luftwaffe, that the Luftwaffe can make this happen, can make the British surrender. The Luftwaffe is the German Air Force. Thank you. And he's convinced Hitler that we can get him to surrender, get Britain to surrender. And when 8 months goes by and it hasn't happened, and the British Navy is still in control of the English Channel and the North Sea, he wants his living space, and so he's going to go find that living space, and he thinks that's the Soviet Union.
I don't want to derail what you're talking about, but I listened to a quick video the other day. It was about Hitler and some of the health issues he was having and some of the things they would give him
that he was on,
amphetamines and some other things. And they said that it really did affect his decision making. And in the back of my mind, you're talking about making one of a few pretty dumb decisions in the war. And it always makes me wonder in the back of my mind, was he just fired up?
My son Ethan bought me a book for my birthday called Blitzkrieg. And it's literally the story of how the entire German army in World War II was just pumped up on amphetamines, which is how they could march for days and days and not sleep and eat. And it has become sort of a common, I guess, story about it. Yeah. So I'm sure it's part of it.
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was just going to say, historically, we talk about history repeating itself, and if Hitler would have, then we're glad he didn't look at history, I guess. But if he would have looked back a couple hundred years,
listen to our podcast,
right.
Listen,
Napoleon did the same thing. He tried the continental system, tried to blockade Europe of British goods.
Yeah.
Right. He was trying to get Britain to surrender. And then when he couldn't do it, he attacked Russia at the time, and winter kicked in. And
got cold.
And I think I think the perception the Germans had of that non-German Europeans are soft, right? So they didn't expect. I mean, when France falls quickly, it's the largest. Yeah. It shouldn't have fallen as fast as it did. Technically, the British are an island. What do they have? A navy, great, which they do. Yeah. But they have the RAF, right? The Royal Air Force, which isn't as large as the Luftwaffe. No. I think they're outmanned plane-wise, like some 15-1 or something, some huge number. So I think that Hitler and Goering thought it would be like everything else, a matter of a week or two. And I remember reading that everyone knew, like, I mean, the British knew it was coming, and for the entire sort of spring, summer had practiced, right? They had air raids already, drills going off. They had issued people, masks. They knew that it was they watched it, right? They watched it happen in France. They watched it happen in World War I. I mean, everybody was fully aware. What they were afraid of was it going to be poison? Right. Was it going to be, incendiary? Was it going to be, nobody knew. And, it's almost impossible to defend against it. I mean, your planes can, but once those bombs leave those German planes, there isn't any anti-aircraft. I mean, you can try to shoot it down, but they're more than likely going to hit. So the statistics are pretty amazing.
Well, and you mentioned the Scandinavian countries had fallen. And so now Germany is going to be launching planes from both Scandinavian countries and northern France.
So just right there.
Now, the fuel tanks in the planes weren't huge, so they only had a certain amount of time that they could be in the air. And most of the books and things that I've studied and read about this is once they got to London, once they, originally they're going to bomb airfields, and they're going to bomb military
ports and things,
those kinds of things. And then once they started bombing London, and trying to get the people to be against the war, which is much more common at World War II on, a lot more civilian casualties. They could only get into London in 10 to 15 minutes is all they had. And then they had to get turned around. Yeah. And so they couldn't go really past London. And so, how did the British people deal with it? Well, some of the people moved out of the city, right? They moved north or west of the city. They used the tube or the subway. That was a bomb shelter, and people lived in that, basically.
Yeah, and I was really kind of wild. What were you going to say, Shmuel? You had a question or something?
I was just that decision to bomb London. I'm pretty sure I remember from something that was Hitler's decision. Like, he was a little upset with the way things were going, and I think he diverted that, right? He said, let's just hit the people.
Which I think they first went after, like, East London, which is the docks. They went after plane and military places, and it didn't, shook. It did not shake Britain like they thought it was going to, right? They were able to bounce back. They every morning they woke up and they went back to work. You know what I mean? That was, he underestimated clearly the resilience of Britain.
And Britain was also putting out a lot of propaganda, like photos and stuff of people doing, walking through the rubble, doing their day-to-day things.
Right. Doing grocery shopping as much as you can.
The library. And there's a really famous picture of this library that only has like 2 walls, right? But there's guys in there looking for books, And,
okay, so this is a great story. And you said that propaganda is a great story. If you know the famous "Keep Calm and Carry On," right? That poster during the Blitz, the government actually had 3 sort of simple sayings to keep sort of the resilience and the hope of the British people alive. The crazy thing is, 2 of them were published and 1 wasn't, but it's still around. So the "Keep Calm and Carry On" is the one that actually the government got out and put up for the British people. And there was another one was like, "Put your head down and move forward." I mean, it was like they were very simple. And I'll have to look it up because they are real. There's a great, if you're looking for a way to kill like 15 minutes, there is a bookstore in Northern England that is where the "Keep Calm and Carry On." They bought a trove of old books and posters from someplace in London, and they found all 3 of the posters. They had kind of gone out of print. Nobody knew they were. And they hung it like in their bookshop, and somebody came in, and they're the ones who then were like, oh, and now I have one in my office.
Right.
I love that.
That's so British, right?
It is.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
You're fine. It's fine.
Well, if you're drinking things like this, now you know what.
Right.
But I do think it's pretty amazing that you think that it's coming. You're fully aware of what is coming in terms of the amount. I think there was one thing that Hitler said: for every 1,000 tons of bombs that the RAF will drop on us, we'll drop 10,000 more on them. I mean, so the overwhelming sense of defeat has got to be huge. And it doesn't happen until like September 1st, I think, of 1940. So I mean, there's a summer there where you're just waiting for it.
That's wild.
It is. And it only lasts, like you said, 8 months.
Right.
So it's almost every night, though.
Right.
And some days.
Yes.
For 8 months. Right. And the statistics are pretty great.
So is that May 14th? Right.
Yeah.
May.
Which is when he decides to
go to Russia.
Because he can't get it. Britain won't fall.
Yeah. And
but
like you said, bored. I love that. He's bored. He's bored. Yeah, I can see that.
I think that's probably a really great way to put it. I've never thought about that, but you're right. He got diverted. His ADHD kicked in, and his meds weren't working. And I mean, literally, something. And in Goering had probably fallen out of favor. And
right. Well, and Churchill. I'm gonna. So I love that. There's an old poster from World War II, and it's Churchill's face on the body of a bulldog.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Which isn't really all that wrong.
Right. But Churchill was out in the rubble, walking with the people through their homes, helping them, find their items that might be salvageable. I mean, he was out there with the people. So he was constantly, his ability to, say the right things at the right times and be in the right places at the right times, I think was a huge part of the British continuing on and staying calm. And
he was not a popular prime minister up until the war because he was very conservative. And so he had, tried to break down some unions. There were coal miners who were very unhappy with him. The people in the East End, London, sort of, lower socioeconomic.
I'm sorry. When did he get elected? When did he get the prime minister?
Like right before the war.
Right before.
It was right.
Okay. Chamberlain
was 39. And Chamberlain
was sorry, I should have known that.
Because of the failure of appeasement. And it's Churchill that gets him booted for appeasement. Churchill thinks appeasement is for losers. I mean, literally.
Right. Churchill was very concerned about Germany.
Right. So he is not a popular prime minister until he turns this horrible tragedy, like you said, Jason. I mean, he is everywhere at the right time. His speeches are perfectly attuned. The words are...
What is it? Blood. All I have to offer is blood, sweat, toil, and tears.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty amazing. Right? And he speaks all the time on the radio, which is, radio is kind of new.
Yeah.
Even the king goes on the radio. The princesses go on the radio. I always thought, too, that the thing that always got me about this whole idea, too, is that once London starts getting bombed, the plan is to get as many people out of London, as you can, but they focus on children.
Right.
The next generation. So there are something like 400,000 children who are put on trains with like tags that have, their parents' names and street addresses, and then put on trains to the far countryside.
Right.
Well, there was a cruise ship full of orphans from the Battle of Britain taken to the United States.
That's a different one.
Oh, it was. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Like this is literally like we all have kids under 10 and they can't be in the city. So we put a name tag with our name and address. We take them to the train station. They get on a train by themselves and they ship them to the countryside and they have them all marked. And the kids will get maybe end up in Leeds or, someplace. And then people are waiting at the train station. Foster parents who will say, and they come on we'll take your two, we'll take two. Families are split up.
Yep.
They don't always get to go with their kids. They don't know if they're going to go back home. They don't know if their parents will survive. They don't know if the house. I'm always thought about that. Like, what if you lost your tag?
Yeah, right.
Do you know what I mean?
Because you're a kid. You're going to do that, right?
Or what if you go home and your parents and your house is no longer there and your parents have been killed? I mean, 40,000 Londoners are killed in the Blitz. I mean, it's
a big deal.
Catastrophic.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
I can only imagine the number of people whose families were completely dislocated or, weren't able to go back. I mean, you've seen the pictures. I mean, London is literally almost destroyed.
Yes. I did look to see. There's over 50,000 both killed and wounded.
Yeah,
total.
Sure.
And I can't even, I'm sure more displaced.
And something like 2 million houses were destroyed. That's something like 60% of London was bombed. I mean, like
a lot of the docks, like you said earlier, too, on the river were destroyed. And some of the hottest fires and biggest issues they had were along the river, because that's where warehouses full of booze were, and they get hit and they catch fire. And they had firemen and fire boats right? And so they just use the river water and pump it right through the hose.
That is pretty. I mean, fortunately, think about the river being right there.
Yeah,
but London's a big city by this time. It has
city.
like 9 million people in it. So I mean, it isn't a small town. But it wasn't just London either. I mean, there were lots of cities that. I mean, a bunch.
Well, and the other thing too. Remember, this is radar is a new technology during the World War II. So, and it's not like radar we are accustomed to that can look 360, right? It can rotate and look around. These are stationary. They're pointed out towards the English Channel or the North Sea or the Atlantic Ocean. And once the planes go over the top of you, you don't see it on the radar anymore.
I didn't know that. That's
wait. Okay, that makes sense. Finish it.
Well,
I just thought. Yeah.
So you see a lot of old pictures of lookouts, basically standing on rooftops with binoculars, and I'd assume a radio, although I've never seen them talking into radio. But I'm sure that they're got a radio so they can tell everybody or tell the high command where the planes are.
And that also makes sense. Then
I'll find a picture of that one.
Like when you see the people underground and like usually young men and women because they're moving like game tokens on giant boards.
Yes.
And that's because that's it. I just remember that because they know they're there. They knew where they were at one point.
Just letting them know. Yeah.
And now they're tracking their movement, but they're doing it literally in a gigantic map and these like long pool cues.
Yeah.
And just thought about it. Of course, that's exactly why they do that.
And if you ever get to go to London,
the War Museum.
Yeah, the War Museum, but you also can go into Churchill's bunker.
Yes, it's amazing.
And it's really cool. There's still a bunker.
It's amazing.
But there also was, the Germans had something called the Enigma. And that was, the way I understand it, you correct me here if I'm wrong, but that was a German, they scrambled the alphabet into these codes. Okay. And the British, I think, cracked the Enigma.
They do, but isn't the thing they made to crack it
called the Enigma?
Enigma?
This is an enigma.
Yeah.
I think.
I'm not sure. We have to look that up.
But you're right. The Germans have a code, and the British, that's Bletchley Park. I mean, there's like German, it's kind of like the equivalent, I guess, of Los Alamos, right? The British had taken their smartest, like it's the highest concentration of like PhDs in the world or something, into a castle in Northern England. And all they're doing
is trying to
crack code. And so anybody they literally would like, there's great books on this, like people who were really good at crossword puzzles, if they knew where they had careers in certain areas, that meant they were like puzzle thinkers, right? They could do that. They were recruited and sent north, and all they did was attempt to crack. And they did.
They did.
They cracked it at some point during the Blitz.
Yes. Yep. Right. And so they would start to know when the attacks were coming. And they, like you said earlier, Jeff, they came every day or every night, but now they were getting times, right? So they could prepare a little bit. And that also helped the RAF.
100%. Yeah. But also, isn't this, and you probably have it much better, it's been a while. This is like the story of the city of Coventry, right? So the Coventry, they know it's going to be bombed, but they can't tell Coventry, the British, because if they tell Coventry and they prepare, the Germans will know that they've broken their code.
Right.
So Churchill has to make a decision, which is, do we protect Coventry knowing that it's going to be bombed, or do we let it take it, unfortunately, for the greater good, right? Because we have the code now, and he decides to keep it quiet, and Coventry, is just destroyed.
Yep.
But, I mean, those are the kind of decisions we're making here.
Can you imagine making those decisions?
No.
That would be awful.
No. I could really make a decision about when to have them for dinner.
Right.
Because it's going to gain 2 pounds or 4 pounds.
Right.
No, that story always gets me, that Coventry one, because I'm sure there are, and I'm not just saying here, but dozens of decisions that are made like that, right? Where you're attempting, first of all, the sense of hope you would have to have that the end will turn out good in the darkest of the days when, Britain is struggling, to still be so hopeful that, we got to carry this code, because chances are, Britain was going to fall.
Right.
I mean, everyone thought they were.
Well, the United States still isn't in the war. Right. And
but are we helping them with anything at this point? When you would know. And by 40, 41, this is so September of 40 to like May of 41.
Yeah, that plays a big role in the change of policy in the United States, because in 1939, when the war begins, the United States moves from their neutrality policies, which 35, 36, and 37 were all designed to keep us out of war zones, keep us away from countries that were fighting. And in 1939, when the war began, we began cash and carry. And so the initial phase of this battle, the United States was supplying the British with aid and weapons, food, all kinds of stuff.
So Jason, so during World War One,
Mm-hmm.
the U.S. would just send ships with supplies, or they were decorated up as something else, but they had supplies in them. But cash and carry is different.
Well, the idea during World War One was that we were going to continue to trade with everybody to stay neutral. But then leading up to World War II, the idea was we're not going to trade with countries at war at all. But then the war started.
Right.
And it became painfully obvious like who we had to support. And so that's where cash and carry comes into play. The problem is that during the Battle of Britain was running out of money. They were running out of capital. Like they had nothing that they could use. And so the Battle of Britain was one of the reasons why the United States passed Lend-Lease.
Right.
So we moved from cash and carry to Lend-Lease. With Lend-Lease is like, and I think I've said this before, but just to be sure, lend or lease anything necessary to any country whose defense is vital to us. And we viewed Britain as vital to us.
Okay, so that's the difference. Cash carry is you buy it.
It's exactly what it sounds like.
To us.
You come get it, pay cash, take it home. But
Right.
Lend-Lease now is a different beast.
We'll send it to you.
And American ships, yes. You lend or lease.
Right.
And then American ships became crucial to creating some convoys for those goods.
God, was there, because at this time, you probably know this, does Germany never get to embargo Great Britain, do they? Because the British Navy is...
The British Navy still control the Channel and the North Sea.
So that's why I think they were able to get those ships through. Unlike World War One with the submarines and things, I think we have a better... Britain's a little bit... From the sea is a little bit better than they were.
And there's... submarines in World War One were a new technology. People didn't know how to defend against them at all. Now they're still very effective in World War II, but there's some options on trying to defend yourself or defend your navy.
And you're probably better at it because you have them too now.
Yes,
it's not just the Germans.
Yeah, for sure.
So then it goes on and on and on. But then what is it that, do you know that what is it besides it being bored that trigger, like, is carrying fall out of favor? Oh, because don't at one point too they get a new bomb? It's like it literally. Oh, it's got a name like an A1, and it's like, and they can shoot it as a pilotless. It's kind of like a drone. It's a pilotless, but you can shoot it from France, and it can travel like it has a range like exactly to like London. They can put them in France, and they can fire them, and then literally as they end their arc.
I'm down in London.
And they make a sound that the people of London, I thought, we should have like
whistles or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It makes a sound that it was even more destructive because it was a combo. Like it was bigger and maybe more incendiary or something. Okay. But that was, people worried because that was what was coming. And then all of a sudden it doesn't last very long, I think, because that's when he flips. Interesting.
So I do think Goering probably fell out of a little bit of favor just because it didn't work. Right. And a guy like Hitler, if you promise him something and it doesn't work, you're going to fall out of favor. I think even as much damage as Germany had done to England and London and Coventry and these different places, because of the British Navy, they still would have had a really hard time invading by land. Right. And so I think the Navy played a big role. The RAF is given tons of credit for the victory. And if you think about this, like you said earlier, Jeff, that they don't have near as many planes. Most of the pilots are really young guys, and you have a longer life expectancy than you did in World War I as a pilot, but it's still not really long. And you are flying because of the size of the RAF. Those raids were happening so frequently that these guys would land, hope to sleep a little bit, and then they're right back in the plane. And so there, a lot of the mistakes that were made a lot of times were just from being so exhausted.
Maybe they should have been giving them amphetamines.
Right. Yeah. But
I'm sure there's stories of those. I'm always amazed at the age. Because it's only been 20 years since the last war, and Britain lost so many people, so many soldiers the first time. And we're talking a new generation, and people, 16, 17 years old. They're often like flying airplanes or firemen or, whatever.
Yeah, and you hear the stories of the kids who you weren't supposed to be able to sign up until you're 18 and this kid dies, he's 15, right? These kids that were so heavily dedicated to their country that they wanted to be a part of it.
And I think that 100%. I mean, it's a different time.
Yeah.
I think only because what you're defending it against is a completely different beast that we would have any idea. You know, you're literally defending your territory. But I remember there's also, and you probably have this too, Schmider and Jones, there's all those great stories. Like they invent things to help. I mean, nobody knows how to survive a bomb, right? A bomb attack from the sky. And so the first thing is they have these things called Anderson boxes, which are basically metal. They're like the size of like a double coffin, and they're basically made out of metal. And you dig a hole in your yard, and you bury it as deep as you can, and then it's like going to a tornado shelter.
Yeah.
But
you could be literally going in your own coffin.
Literally, I mean, like they were called Anderson boxes, and then they didn't last long because they figured out that
what was the one called that you bought it? You put it in your house. It was like
that might be the Anderson box.
So it was metal, but it had, instead of metal sides, it was like a fencing. Almost.
Yeah, that might be the Anderson box. So if your house collapsed on you, you hopefully could survive.
Well, the idea too was that fencing would stop the shrapnel.
Right.
Now it wouldn't stop all of it, but it would stop big pieces.
Right. I mean, so they were trying, and the first couple of weeks, I remember reading this, that the British government didn't want to panic people, right? So they did not open the tube stops initially because they didn't want people to go down and never come up. Right. They were afraid that if they went down under the bomb, they would stay down there and would have lost, basically, because it would have triggered a huge sense of fear and anxiety, which I think the British government planned for it to be completely terror and anxiety. But the British, like, they went down, they lined up I think 2 weeks. And they finally opened the tube stops because they're like, this isn't going to go.
Get people out.
We got to get people
just think about the just hearing that siren every day. I mean, talk about anxiety, right? I mean,
you think people lined up? You had to line up at like a certain time to get into a tube stop, and they would open them up, and then because people were still using the tube to go to work, or travel. So I mean, you're sleeping on the subway platform and the stairs. Can you imagine how hot and stuffy, and then the sound of the bombs dropping all around you.
And the trains running.
When I told Ethan that we were doing this today, he said, he goes, "How are you going to convey that sense of like what?" I go, "There's no way. I don't think you can convey a sense of what it was like. It just would have been horrifying." Like I said, daily.
Well, unless you've been in war,
probably.
And we haven't.
We haven't.
No,
I mean, we're fascinated by what we read about it. But we have not been
or
there,
see. But I mean, it's and because there's so many good archival footage. But to come up every morning, like from a tube stop, and to watch the city just collapse and get bombed around you, not knowing if your house is going to be there. I mean, like, people stopped going down to the tubes eventually, just because. I mean, they kind of got used to the bombings. You know what I mean? They're just like, well, you know, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Yeah. I mean, I don't think people.
That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I always kind of thought is.
No, it's
that how your daily life, but yet you still try to carry on daily life. And babies are born, people get sick.
Your job may not even be there, right? The building's not there, the factory's not there.
But you need to go because you need your factory to make whatever it is. You need to go to the store, you need to make the mail. They tried to make it as normal. Even Buckingham Palace had a bomb drop on its property, and the building took some damage, but the two princesses had been shipped out to Windsor, but the king and queen never left, right? And that was also like a huge bit of nationalism, right? Because you would see them, and they would every morning they would do the same thing as Churchill, right? They would go and they would tour, and they would meet people whose houses had been destroyed and never left.
When you put a quote on our outline here, this is not the beginning of the end, but maybe the end of the beginning.
There's another part to that.
I think, is that from the Blitz, or is that from North Africa?
I don't know. That's a good point. I just know that that quote to me is there's so many great Churchill quotes.
Yeah, it's a great quote.
Churchill is probably a whole podcast.
Sure.
I mean, because he's been around since like the Boer. Well, 1890s. I mean, he's fought. I mean,
did somebody pick him to have a drink with during one of the World War II episodes?
He would definitely be the guy you'd pick.
Seems like maybe we did.
He would have been drinking.
He would have been already drinking. Yeah.
The stories. I mean, some of the stories I love about that. Like he took a bath every day, but he would walk around like 10 Downing Place naked or with the bathrobe open, and he always had a cigar a brandy or whatever he drank.
Well, and that actually makes me think about so I know that he and Roosevelt spent quite a bit of time together.
Well, he brought
once the war started. Once the war began, the relationship intensified. Churchill spent some time in the White House, and because Roosevelt was a big drinker too.
I'm sure.
So I think between the two of them, from morning to evening, they were probably rotating cocktails. You
Yeah.
know? That's- yeah.
No,
I mean, the
but you-
stories of the amount of alcohol he consumed is
Yeah.
pretty legendary.
Yeah.
yeah, and you brought up his military service. I think he was in the military for like 50 years.
Yeah, I
Holy
think so.
cow.
He was started in the Boer War,
In the
so
Boer
South
War was
Africa,
in South Africa.
and then he eventually becomes like Secretary of the Navy, which is like
Mhm.
commander of the British Navy or
Right.
something like that. And he works his way up. He's born into like nobility.
Yeah.
I mean, he is, son of an earl, so he's already well born, but then he does do service, which is kind of the way second, third sons
Yeah.
did that too,
Yeah.
with the nobility. But then he runs for parliament, right? And he is out and then he's in
Yeah.
and then he stays for the war. But then when the war is over, he's
Yeah.
out. I
Yeah.
mean, he's
Right.
voted out right away because he's not the guy they want.
Right.
They want him to fight the war. They
Yeah.
don't want him
I
to
remember
heal
that,
the
yeah.
war. But
Yeah.
yeah, the Blitz is, I think, an amazing. It was a good call. Man, I think that's a great.
Well, one thing to put a book into that. It was the end of once this died down and the Germans focused on the Soviet Union. Right before the United States got involved in the war, the British and the United States signed the Atlantic Charter. And the Atlantic Charter was us agreeing to the principles of the war. It went right in line with what Roosevelt had been telling the American people about the four freedoms. The four freedoms were like freedom from fear, freedom from want, freedom of speech, and freedom of worship, right? But it was always lining us up with the British. And the Atlantic Charter was sort of the nail in that. Like, we're not in the war yet. However, if Lend-Lease wasn't the United States taking the side of Britain, then the Atlantic Charter certainly was. It was like literally a statement of support. And so that would give, I think, the next phase of World War II, once the United States enters, for Britain, an interesting perspective, because now we were in it together. Interestingly, the Soviets also led to the war, and that adds a whole new perspective to it.
I was just going to say, I
Right.
wonder the time frame here. So May is when Battle of Britain ends.
Yeah.
When's the Atlantic Charter signed?
The Atlantic Charter was 1941. I put that down in here
Okay.
somewhere, didn't I? I think I wrote that down. It was
and when
1941.
did,
1941.
Atlantic
start?
Charter.
Barbarossa would have been
Well,
right at
1941.
the end of Operation Barbarossa, which was the invasion of Soviet Union.
Mhm.
It had to be within months.
That's
of
what I
the
would
end of the
think,
war, or
yeah.
the-
It was
also
of the end of the
41.
Blitz,
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because I know that
Yeah.
Stalingrad knows at the end of 41 to 42. So
Yes.
he's already, again, make the decision to
Right.
go in winter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out your timeline because I know that when you said that when he didn't get Britain, he turned to Russia.
Russia.
But Russia doesn't necessarily know he's coming, or do they know he's coming?
I don't know.
I'm sure
I'm
that
sure they know that he's getting troops.
Yeah, I'm sure they're
and,
pretty aware.
getting ready to go.
Stalin
I-
wasn't stupid. That's
No.
for sure.
I don't disagree, and I don't know whether that's true, but I do know that it takes until November of 1942 for the Soviets to counter at
Right.
Stalingrad. So
Right.
they're clearly not completely prepared.
Yeah, I
You
think
know.
that I think they have people,
Yeah.
the Germans,
Yeah.
which is what eventually helps turn the tide. They have just bodies. That's the Russians always do, defending their
Yeah.
homeland, right? But
Yeah,
the
and
German
and
Blitzkrieg is
Stalin will throw
Yeah.
millions of people.
millions.
Yeah, yeah,
you
I
know,
don't even think we ever know what a real death toll is because the Russians
Mhm.
just that it's
Okay.
like, and
Yeah.
it's like massive.
and this is totally off the topic, but I read something just today. Well, it's not totally off the topic, but Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a
when-
Russia connection.
Yeah.
Well, and it's World War II too. I read an article today that talked about how they used World War II era tanks to go into Chernobyl after the whole thing, after the meltdown,
Yeah.
because they were the only mechanical objects that would keep running.
Seriously?
Yeah. The other stuff would falter in all that radiation and whatnot. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
And so there's a couple, then they showing us pictures of these 2 or 3 rusted out World War II Russian
tanks don't want to go to that.
That's that.
They don't make them like they used
That's
to.
right. I'm sorry that popped in my head.
No,
I
that's
just
great.
thought, but I think
Uh,
I think that the Battle of Britain is the resolve that the
Mhm.
British show, and if you're a French freedom fighter, right, you're standing there going, oh, come on, we can get back in this fight,
Yeah.
or if you're I don't know, the Russians or the Soviets or even the Americans. I mean, I think we in the United States kind of sometimes poke fun at the British
Sure.
right? But historically, they've been pretty tough.
Well, I think the counterfactual is there. Had Britain fallen,
Oh gosh.
then what?
Yeah,
That's always
Because,
I mean, look, they
Again, the
would have had
connection
everything.
between the United States, we needed them as much as they needed us. Once
There
we
you go,
got,
U.S.
you know,
history guy. Would
Yeah.
the U.S. have then gone to war against the Nazis? And would he have bombed Pearl Harbor?
the Atlantic Charter was kind of that final promise to go to war in Europe. Pearl Harbor was a war against the Japanese.
Right,
There
right.
was
But-
no guarantee that we were going to go to war in Europe, except the Atlantic Charter kind of was that.
They were always told, and maybe I'm wrong, is that the tripartite agreement, right, between Italy, Germany, and Japanese, the Japanese,
Yeah.
part of the reason that they,
Yeah.
Hitler is playing an odds game here too, right? The
Right,
longer
sure.
he bombs London, the more he risks the U.S. getting into the war. It's like, how far can he push the envelope before the U.S. has to? So I thought that the bombing of Pearl Harbor, now there's been some speculation that like it was to then pull the Americans that way
Towards the
Right.
Pacific.
towards Asia,
Yeah.
so that if it
Yeah.
wouldn't come to Great Britain.
Yeah.
I mean, even though the battle's already over by then,
Right.
but it was to keep them out of
Yeah.
Europe, keep the
Right.
U.S. out of Europe.
Yeah, the thought,
Right.
the
Didn't
thought
think
was
we could do
clearly
both.
we couldn't do both.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
and the thing I always think about too, and if Hitler would have just said, "Hey, I control all of mainland
Except, right.
Europe," right?
Right.
Yeah.
Or just like Napoleon, if I control all of mainland Europe,
Right.
and if they just would have been happy, content, right?
Yeah.
Would they have been, how long would they have
Yeah.
how long would they have ruled?
A benevolent Hitler.
How long would they have ruled?
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
seriously.
I mean, you're right. I
Like,
get
Yeah,
what you're
that's
saying.
what it
Yeah.
is.
Like, would the Great Britain have kept attacking? Would Russia have kept attacking?
Yeah. I'm still stuck on that. If Hitler controlled Britain, would the war in Europe have been over? And would the United States have just focused on the
You need to-
Pacific?
you're-
And the
I don't the
know.
U.S. guy.
I know, but I don't know.
That's
I don't-
yeah,
I
and would
wish
he
I did.
if he got Britain to surrender, would he have turned on Russia, or would he
No.
have said no and just, "Hey, I'm good now"?
My sense is that you probably have.
My guess.
I think it's because of that there's that megalomania. I mean, like he
Yeah.
couldn't have let them go.
right.
And the
Yeah.
Russians, like probably knowing Stalin, weren't going to let
Right.
Hitler go.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have fought. It was good. They were going to
Yeah.
battle head to head at some point.
Mm.
But yeah, that's crazy when you think
But-
about that.
Yeah.
But that decision to invade the Soviet Union by Hitler, it turned
turns the
out to
worm.
be
Yeah.
his turn. It really wasn't us. It really wasn't even the British. It was Hitler's decision
Yeah.
that turned the tide, right?
And Soviets will get blasted for about a year, and then
Mhm.
will eventually hold their ground and
Yeah.
then repel. And that's, I mean, the Soviets
Well,
again.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this when we talked about World War II in general, but Hitler's, generals didn't want to go to Stalingrad. They wanted to try to get Moscow to fall,
Yeah.
and he wanted to go to Stalingrad anyway. And I'm
Really?
sure it's because it was named after Stalin,
Yeah.
and the Soviets weren't going to give up the city that's named after their leader.
That's really
it's
interesting. I've heard. I don't know enough about this to say too much, but I do know that there's been some argument amongst historians in the last few years about whether it was Stalingrad or Moscow that was truly that turning point for the Soviets there. Like, there was an invasion,
Mhm.
or at least an attempted invasion of Moscow too, but that makes me wonder if the story wasn't told
Old.
Mm.
Yeah.
to make Stalingrad the turning point.
That's
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Like,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
because that's the wow.
Yeah. yeah,
That's great.
Well,
That went from the Battle of Britain to everything, which was, I mean, that was
that
great.
was good. Yeah.
So we need to. Who's your turn? Shmoyda?
I
Have a
I
drink?
guess, man. So, like, all right, I just want to say this: like, the U.S. history guy here was a little unsure. Like, I didn't know how much about this, to be honest with you. That was great. Like, I loved hearing about that. I loved learning
That was
about it. So
good.
thank
That
you
was
guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a great call. Great call. Who do I want to have? If we haven't chosen Churchill, I'm choosing Churchill.
There you go.
I can't imagine
Even if
choosing
we did choose
anyone
him.
but him, except someone that like took care of him, someone that dealt with this shit. Like, that'd be the only other person I can think of.
Yeah, he would be
It
epic.
Churchill
has
would
to
be
be
dope.
him.
It would be epic.
Right.
And you'd be drinking with him for a while.
And I'd have a sweet cigar and an
you
amazing
would.
drink,
You
and
would.
we would have, and I'd probably be under the table by the end of the night, but it would
Probably
be
by end at breakfast.
probably
Well,
by
just-
lunch, but all the stuff, like the whole thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what a great choice. And I'd even love to know about the Boer War, right? And
Just the
all,
stuff
just
he
the
saw.
stuff, all
Or-
the things he did.
Or was it okay? So was it Gallipoli that affected his decision to not help Stalin on the Eastern Front, right? Because if Stalin wanted a front through
Pigou is
Greece.
World War One,
Right,
so that would have worked. No, I mean, I'm
But it was
thinking, yeah,
his failures during that battle
The
that
British
made
got
him
hammered.
not want to open a front
Yes.
in Greece, correct?
Because I think during World War One,
Yeah.
he was like charged in the Navy. So
Yeah.
I think that's, I'm sure. Yeah, you're
Okay.
right. I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
he
talk,
would've
we
been-
talk about that for a
I mean,
few
he's probably a top 10, 20th century
Oh yeah.
For
sort of
sure.
figures.
He would
I
have,
mean,
sure.
Yeah, he would have.
Yeah, I also
For
would love
sure.
to know how he felt getting voted out
Yeah.
when the war is over.
Yeah. Like,
know what I
thank
mean?
you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Right.
What's next?
Right.
Yeah.
And he
Right.
lives another almost like 60s, I think. He doesn't die till the 60s,
Yeah.
Mm.
considering that he's probably pickled.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
That's a good one.
He's a great one.
I
That's
mean,
a
it's,
good one.
to me, it's the only one.
Yeah.
Like who else would you, you know,
Unless you
find somebody that would drink this stuff. I don't know.
like, let's say like an RAF pilot,
Yeah.
or somebody who survived the Blitz or
Right,
something.
yeah,
sure.
Because I mean, just think about it. Their age, if they were children, they were 5 or 6, they could
It
be
could be
almost
around.
90.
Wow.
And I mean, they
Mm.
could still possibly, I'm sure there are some survivors still if they were
Yeah.
young enough.
Yeah,
Right. They have memories of it. Wow.
True.
That was a good one.
Well,
Yeah. Well, I think
Is that it?
we're moving on. What's we're thinking about doing at some point
Oh,
movie
I like
review.
this. Yeah.
And if what's the name of the day? Pressure. Yeah. So that just came out. We're thinking we might go see that.
Okay. This is the
Talk
D-Day
about this
one, right?
yeah, it's
It's
World
the one
War
about
II.
D-Day.
Yeah.
And what's the other one you said that's coming out?
Young Washington, which is about sort of the
Okay.
early years of George Washington, which I
did
thought
you,
would be kind
did
of
you
fun.
Oh, yeah.
chop down a cherry
Yeah.
tree kind of thing?
There is another one about like an 86 nuclear risk thing with
Is
Reagan,
Matthew Broderick-
Cold
is
War
Matthew
era.
Broderick in it?
Isn't that where I think that was the one, and I
Do you
only
wanna
saw a
play a
short
game?
little trailer, but I think it's the one where the Soviets actually scrambled their planes as if they
It's
think
War
an
Games.
attack. Yeah. So that's coming out in July,
We should just see War Games. We
could get
the old Matthew Broderick.
except I'm not sure that actually happened.
Okay.
It's like Forrest Gump.
Wow. No, I'm crazy.
But you're right. Yeah. It's that time period.
Well,
So there's a bunch. I think
Yeah.
what we've talked about going
Yeah.
to see a movie.
maybe.
And then
It'd be fun. And then talk about it on the.
there's a couple
Sure.
movies we talked about too. Like I never, I get not trying to make it a little bit non-US, but there's that Napoleon movie. I never
Right.
saw that.
I haven't
That
seen that either, and I'd like to see
supposedly
it.
had
Yeah.
all sorts of maybe
Yeah.
historic issues.
Yeah.
That might be a kind of a cool episode.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
Well, I guess then class dismissed.
Class
dismissed. Thank
Hey,
you.
See you next time. Thanks.
Thanks, Fox Hill Wine and Spirits.
There it is.